When one of the three people who invented the technology behind ChatGPT quits his job at Google and starts warning the public about AI, you pay attention. But here's what almost nobody tells you. Geoffrey Hinton isn't warning you about robots taking your job. He's warning you about something far more subtle, far more important, and far more relevant to how you'll work for the next 20 years. Most people completely miss what he's actually saying. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just what Hinton warns about, but why his perspective matters more than almost anyone else's in this conversation, and what that means for you as a professional in 2026 and beyond. Let's establish something fundamental right from the start. Geoffrey Hinton is not a tech commentator. He's not a futurist making predictions from the sidelines. He's not an influencer with a carefully crafted personal brand talking about AI trends. Geoffrey Hinton is one of 3 researchers who won the Turing Award in 2018 for foundational work that made modern AI possible. When you use ChatGPT, Claude, or any large language model, you're using technology that builds directly on research Hinton published decades ago. This matters because the AI conversation has become impossibly noisy. Everyone has an opinion. Tech executives promise transformation. Consultants sell courses. Commentators chase engagement with increasingly extreme takes. In this environment, it's easy to treat all voices as equivalent, to assume that one expert opinion is basically the same as another. But Hinton isn't offering predictions from outside the field. He helped create the field. He spent 40 years understanding these systems from the inside, watching them evolve from academic curiosities into technologies that now touch billions of lives. When Hinton left Google in 2023, the headlines wrote themselves. Major news outlets framed it as a dramatic warning, a resignation in protest, a researcher fleeing from his own creation. The narrative was irresistible. The godfather of AI turns against his creation and warns humanity. It fit perfectly into our cultural template for technology stories. We love tales of creators who lose control, of innovations that escape their boundaries, of warnings that go unheeded. But that narrative, while compelling, misses the nuance of what Hinton actually said and continues to say. He didn't quit because he thinks AI will inevitably destroy jobs or render human work meaningless. He didn't leave because he believes automation will create a jobless future. His concerns are more specific, more technical, and frankly, more interesting than the simplified versions that circulate on social media. Hinton's credibility comes from an unusual combination: deep technical knowledge paired with genuine intellectual honesty. He's willing to say, "I don't know," about questions where many would speculate. He's willing to change his mind when evidence changes, which he's done multiple times throughout his career. He doesn't have products to sell or consulting businesses to build. His incentive structure is different from most voices in this space. This intellectual honesty makes his warnings worth examining carefully. When someone with nothing to gain from fear-mongering expresses concern, that concern deserves serious attention. When someone who spent decades building these systems suggests we need to think carefully about their implications, dismissing that suggestion seems unwise. But here's where it gets complicated. Hinton's actual views are often misrepresented, sometimes by people who genuinely misunderstand them, sometimes by those who find simplified versions more useful for their own arguments. He becomes a convenient authority figure to cite, a prestigious name to invoke, regardless of whether the argument being made actually reflects his positions. Understanding what Hinton gets right requires first understanding what he actually says, which requires cutting through layers of interpretation, summarization, and outright distortion. It requires reading his actual interviews, watching full conversations rather than clips, and paying attention to the qualifications and nuances he consistently includes. So why does his opinion matter more than others? Because he understands these systems at a level few people do. Because he has no financial interest in any particular narrative. Because he's demonstrated intellectual honesty over decades. And because his concerns come from technical understanding rather than speculation or ideology. If thoughtful AI discussions matter to you, liking the video helps more people find it. The algorithm treats engagement as a signal of quality, and quality conversations about AI are increasingly rare. The foundation matters here. Before we can understand what Hinton gets right, we need to establish why his perspective deserves careful attention in the first place. Not blind deference, not uncritical acceptance, but genuine engagement with ideas from someone who actually knows what he's talking about, at a technical level that most commentators simply cannot match. Now let's talk about what Geoffrey Hinton actually warns about, because the gap between his real concerns and how they're portrayed in media is significant and revealing. First, what he doesn't say. Hinton does not claim that AI will inevitably eliminate most jobs in the near future. He does not argue that human work will become meaningless or that we're rapidly approaching a world where machines do everything. He does not suggest that professionals should panic or that current career paths are pointless. These are common interpretations, but they don't reflect his actual statements. What Hinton does say is more subtle and more interesting. His primary concern revolves around the speed of AI development relative to our understanding of these systems and our preparation for their implications. He worries that we're building increasingly capable systems without fully understanding how they work, what their limitations are, or how to control them reliably. This is a technical concern before it's a social one. Hinton points out that modern AI systems, particularly large language models, work in ways their creators don't completely understand. We can train them, we can test them, we can deploy them, but we can't always predict their behavior in novel situations. We can't always explain why they give particular answers or make particular decisions. This unpredictability becomes more consequential as these systems are deployed in more critical contexts. Think about this carefully. We're giving these systems increasing responsibility in medicine, law, finance, education, and countless other domains. Yet the people who built them will readily admit they don't have complete theories of why they work or how to prevent specific failures. This isn't ignorance or incompetence. It's the nature of how machine learning systems are developed. They learn patterns from data in ways that create emergent behaviors we don't fully specify in advance. Hinton's second major concern relates to the concentration of power and capability. AI systems require enormous computational resources and massive data sets. This creates natural centralization around a small number of companies and institutions. That centralization, combined with the power of AI systems to influence information, decisions, and social dynamics, worries him. Not because he thinks these companies are evil, but because he recognizes that concentrated power without adequate checks tends to create problems regardless of intentions. His third area of focus, which gets less attention but matters significantly, involves the potential for these systems to be misused. Not by gaining consciousness or developing their own goals, but by being deployed deliberately in harmful ways. An AI system doesn't need to be sentient to be used for sophisticated misinformation, for invasive surveillance, for automated manipulation, or for enabling new forms of social control. The capabilities exist now. The question is how they'll be governed and constrained. Notice what's absent from this list. Hinton doesn't traffic in science fiction scenarios. He doesn't speculate about superintelligence emerging suddenly. He doesn't claim that AI will develop consciousness or intentions. His concerns are grounded in capabilities that already exist or that represent plausible near-term developments of current technology. But here's where media coverage consistently fails. These nuanced concerns get translated into clickable narratives about job loss, robot replacement, and human obsolescence. Why? Because those narratives are simpler, more dramatic, and fit existing cultural templates we have about technology and work. When Hinton discusses AI and employment, his actual message is about disruption and transition, not elimination. He acknowledges that some tasks currently done by humans will be automated. This is neither novel nor controversial. It's been happening throughout industrial history. What concerns him is the pace and scope of potential changes, and whether our social and economic systems can adapt quickly enough to support people through transitions. This is a completely different message than AI will take your job. It's a message about managing change, about building robust social systems, about thinking carefully about how we deploy powerful technologies. But that message is less viral, less shareable, less likely to generate strong emotional reactions that drive engagement. The distortion matters because it affects how people respond. If you believe Hinton is saying all jobs are doomed, you might panic, give up on skill development, or fall for get-rich-quick schemes promising to help you escape the coming automation apocalypse. If you understand his actual message, you recognize the need for adaptability, continued learning, and focus on capabilities that remain distinctly human even as AI systems become more capable. Let's separate fear from facts systematically. Fact: AI systems are becoming more capable at specific tasks, including some tasks that require apparent reasoning. Fear: this means human expertise becomes worthless. Reality: this means human expertise needs to evolve toward areas where judgment, context, oversight, and accountability matter more than raw task execution. Fact: AI development is happening faster than most regulatory and social adaptation. Fear: this means catastrophe is inevitable. Reality: this means we need to be more thoughtful and proactive about governance, standards, and social policy around AI deployment. Fact: some jobs will change significantly or disappear as AI capabilities expand. Fear: this means widespread permanent unemployment. Reality: this means we need robust transition support, accessible retraining, and economic policies that help people adapt to changing demand for different kinds of work. Hinton's warnings are serious but not apocalyptic. They're calls for careful thought, good governance, and proactive adaptation. Their recognition that powerful technologies require responsible deployment. This is wisdom, not panic. The sensational headlines serve particular interests. They generate clicks and attention. They create markets for solutions to the problems they dramatize. They position certain voices as essential guides through chaos. But they don't serve people trying to make thoughtful decisions about their careers, their learning, or their relationship to technology. Understanding what Hinton actually warns about requires reading past the headlines, listening to full interviews, and paying attention to what he emphasizes versus what gets emphasized about him. It requires recognizing that nuanced technical concerns get flattened into simple narratives that fit existing fears. The goal here isn't to dismiss concerns about AI's social impact. Those concerns are legitimate and important. The goal is to engage with them accurately, to respond to real challenges rather than imagined catastrophes, and to build strategies based on what's actually happening rather than on dramatic oversimplifications. So, if Hinton isn't warning about human obsolescence, what is he actually saying about human value as AI systems become more capable? This is where his message becomes most relevant for professionals trying to navigate the next decade. Hinton consistently emphasizes that AI systems, regardless of how impressive they become at specific tasks, remain tools that require human judgment, oversight, and responsibility. This isn't a comforting platitude. It's a technical observation about how these systems actually work and what they can and cannot do. Large language models can generate text that sounds authoritative and coherent. They can answer questions, write code, analyze data, and perform numerous tasks that previously required human experts. But they have no genuine understanding of context, no accountability for outcomes, no ability to weigh competing values or make ethical judgments in novel situations. They pattern match based on training data. They predict plausible continuations based on statistical relationships. This is remarkable and useful, but it's fundamentally different from human reasoning. What does this mean practically? It means that as AI handles more routine execution, human value increasingly centers on the things AI systems cannot do. Understanding full context, recognizing when standard approaches don't apply, weighing values and trade-offs, taking responsibility for decisions, and exercising judgment in situations where there's no clear right answer. Let's make this concrete across different professional contexts. In medicine, an AI system might analyze medical images faster and more consistently than human radiologists. But it can't have a conversation with a patient about their values and preferences. It can't weigh quality of life considerations against treatment options. It can't recognize when standard protocols don't fit a particular patient's complex situation. The doctor's role doesn't disappear. It evolves toward the parts of medicine that require human judgment and relationship. In law, AI systems can review documents, find relevant precedents, and draft routine contracts more efficiently than junior associates. But they can't understand a client's full strategic situation, advise on whether to litigate or settle based on context that includes factors not in the documents, or argue persuasively to a jury. The lawyer's role shifts toward strategy, judgment, and representation rather than routine document work. In software development, AI tools can write substantial amounts of code based on specifications. But they can't understand the full context of a business problem, make architectural decisions that balance multiple competing concerns, or take responsibility when systems fail in production. The developer's role becomes more about design, architecture, and responsible deployment. You see the pattern. AI handles execution of well-defined tasks. Humans handle context, judgment, responsibility, and the messy reality of situations where rules and patterns don't cleanly apply. This isn't about humans doing whatever's left after AI takes the good stuff. It's about humans focusing on what we're actually better at: flexible reasoning in complex contexts, integration of multiple competing considerations, and accountability for decisions. Hinton's emphasis on understanding becomes crucial here. He frequently notes that AI systems don't understand in any meaningful sense. They manipulate symbols based on patterns, but they don't grasp meaning, don't understand implications, don't recognize context in the way humans do. This limitation isn't temporary or likely to be solved soon. It's related to the fundamental architecture of how these systems work. For professionals, this creates a clear mandate. Deepen your understanding of your domain, not just your ability to execute tasks. Develop judgment through experience with edge cases and complex situations. Build the contextual knowledge that helps you recognize when standard approaches don't apply. These capabilities become more valuable, not less, as AI handles more routine execution. The accountability dimension matters especially. When an AI system makes a mistake, who's responsible? Not the AI. Responsibility lies with the humans who chose to use it, who defined its parameters, who failed to catch errors, who trusted it beyond what its capabilities warranted. As AI systems are deployed more widely, this accountability becomes more important and more complex. Think about a doctor using AI diagnostics. The AI might flag a potential issue or miss something significant, but the doctor is responsible for the diagnosis and treatment plan. They need to know enough to critically evaluate what the AI suggests, to recognize its limitations, to integrate its output with their own clinical judgment. The AI becomes a powerful tool, but it doesn't replace the doctor's responsibility or judgment. This pattern repeats across professions. As AI handles more tasks, human responsibility doesn't decrease. It becomes more critical because the decisions being made affect more people more quickly. The professional using AI tools needs deeper understanding, better judgment, and clearer accountability, not less. If you appreciate calm, long-form AI analysis, consider subscribing. This channel focuses on thoughtful exploration of how AI actually works and what it means for professionals, without hype or panic. Hinton also emphasizes reasoning, not just pattern recognition. Current AI systems are very good at recognizing patterns they've seen in training data. They're much weaker at genuine reasoning through novel problems, especially problems that require integrating knowledge from multiple domains or recognizing that a situation is fundamentally different from past examples. Human reasoning, at its best, involves exactly this kind of flexible integration. We can recognize when a new situation is truly novel, when past patterns don't apply, when we need to think from first principles rather than apply templates. This capability becomes more valuable as AI systems handle more template matching and pattern recognition. For professionals, this suggests where to invest learning energy. In developing flexible reasoning skills, in understanding fundamental principles of your domain deeply enough to apply them in novel situations, in recognizing edge cases and exceptions, in thinking through ethical and value dimensions that AI systems cannot handle. The future Hinton describes isn't one where humans compete with AI at AI's strengths. That's a losing proposition. It's one where humans focus on human strengths that become more valuable precisely because AI handles other things well. Context, judgment, responsibility, ethical reasoning, integration across domains, recognition of novelty. These aren't consolation prizes. They're the core of professional value in a world where routine execution increasingly gets automated. This reframing matters psychologically. If you think of AI as replacing human value, every AI advancement feels like a threat. If you understand that AI changes what kinds of human value matter most, each AI advancement creates new opportunities to focus on what humans do best. It's not about humans versus AI. It's about humans using AI to handle routine work so they can focus on work that requires human capabilities. The professionals who thrive will be those who embrace this shift rather than resist it, who learn to use AI tools effectively while developing the judgment to know their limitations, who deepen their understanding rather than just their technical skills, who take responsibility rather than treating AI as an excuse or replacement for human judgment. Hinton's perspective here is grounded but optimistic in a specific way. He's not claiming everything will automatically be fine. He's identifying where human value genuinely lies and suggesting that focusing on those areas creates meaningful paths forward. But it requires adaptation, learning, and willingness to shift focus toward capabilities that remain distinctly and, importantly, human. Let's translate Geoffrey Hinton's ideas into practical mindset shifts and approaches for experienced professionals. Not tooltips or technique tricks, but fundamental ways of thinking about your work, your development, and your value as AI capabilities continue to expand. First mindset shift. Move from task execution to judgment and oversight. If your professional identity centers on efficiently executing defined tasks, that identity needs to evolve. AI systems will increasingly handle execution for well-defined tasks. Your value lies in defining what needs to be done, evaluating whether it was done correctly, recognizing exceptions and edge cases, and taking responsibility for outcomes. This isn't about becoming a manager of robots. It's about developing deeper judgment about your domain. The professional who can look at AI-generated code and immediately spot subtle problems. The lawyer who can review an AI-drafted contract and recognize clauses that don't fit this particular client's situation. The analyst who can evaluate AI-generated data summaries and know what questions weren't asked or what context was missed. This requires different learning than skill acquisition. It requires building mental models of your domain that let you evaluate quality, recognize problems, and exercise judgment. It requires experience with enough edge cases to develop intuition about when standard approaches don't work. It requires understanding principles deeply enough to apply them flexibly. Second mindset shift. Treat AI capability as an invitation to focus on higher-level work, not as a threat to your expertise. When AI tools can handle routine parts of your work, that's not evidence that you're becoming obsolete. It's an opportunity to focus on work that requires more judgment, more creativity, more integration of context. The designer who doesn't need to spend hours on technical execution can spend more time understanding user needs, exploring creative directions, and solving complex problems. The analyst who doesn't need to manually clean and process data can spend more time on interpretation, strategy, and communicating insights. The writer who has help with research and first drafts can focus more on voice, argument structure, and deeper analysis. This shift requires genuine engagement with AI tools to understand what they handle well and where they need human guidance. It requires letting go of work that AI can do adequately and investing energy in work where human judgment adds significant value. This is harder than it sounds because we often find identity and comfort in familiar tasks, even when they're not our highest value work. Third mindset shift. Develop technological literacy without becoming a technologist. You don't need to understand transformer architectures or train your own models, but you do need to understand what AI systems can and cannot do, what their failure modes are, and how to use them effectively. This means understanding that AI systems are probabilistic, not deterministic. They don't guarantee correct answers. They generate plausible ones based on patterns in training data. This means understanding that they lack genuine context awareness and can confidently generate nonsense. This means knowing they have no accountability and that responsibility for their use lies with you. Technological literacy here is about being a sophisticated user, not a builder. It's about knowing when to trust AI tools and when to be skeptical, when to use them to accelerate work, and when they introduce more problems than they solve. How to verify their outputs rather than accepting them uncritically. Fourth mindset shift. Invest in understanding over technique. Techniques become obsolete as tools change. Deep understanding of your domain remains valuable across technological shifts. The doctor who deeply understands pathophysiology can adapt to any new diagnostic technology. The programmer who understands computer science fundamentals can adapt to any new language or framework. The analyst who understands statistical reasoning can work with any new data tool. AI acceleration makes this distinction more important. If your value comes from mastering specific techniques, you're competing with AI at execution. If your value comes from deep domain understanding and judgment, AI becomes a tool that makes your expertise more effective. This suggests where to invest learning time: in understanding principles, in studying edge cases and exceptions, in developing mental models of how your domain works at a fundamental level, not in memorizing the latest tool features or technique tricks. Fifth mindset shift. Embrace continuous adaptation as a permanent condition. The pace of AI development means the landscape will keep shifting. Tools will change. Capabilities will expand. What AI handles well this year may be different from what it handles well next year. Professionals who thrive will be those who treat adaptation as ongoing, not as a one-time response to a specific technology. This isn't about chasing every new tool or trend. It's about maintaining awareness of how capabilities are evolving, regularly reassessing where you add most value, and being willing to shift focus as the terrain changes. It's about building adaptability as a core professional capability. Sixth mindset shift. Take responsibility for AI's role in your work. As AI tools become part of your workflow, you remain responsible for outcomes. You can't blame the AI when something goes wrong. You can't outsource judgment to tools that have no judgment. Using AI effectively means knowing its limitations well enough to catch its errors, verify its outputs, and take full responsibility for decisions. This creates higher standards for professionals using AI tools, not lower. You need to be good enough at your domain to critically evaluate AI output, to recognize when it's wrong or incomplete, to integrate it with your own knowledge and judgment. The professional who just accepts whatever the AI generates isn't leveraging AI well. They're abdicating responsibility. Seventh mindset shift. Focus on capabilities AI systems fundamentally lack. Hinton's work helps clarify what these are: genuine contextual understanding, ethical reasoning in novel situations, accountability, integration of values with technical decisions, recognition of when situations are truly different from past patterns, and creative synthesis that goes beyond pattern recombination. These aren't feel-good platitudes about human specialness. They're actual capabilities that current AI architectures don't have and aren't on track to develop soon. Investing in developing these capabilities is a practical strategy based on technical understanding of what AI systems are and aren't. Eighth mindset shift. Cultivate relationships and communication alongside technical skills. AI systems don't build trust with clients. They don't understand the human dimensions of professional work. They don't navigate organizational politics or understand social dynamics. As technical execution gets automated, the relationship and communication aspects of professional work become proportionally more important. The consultant who builds genuine understanding with clients. The manager who develops trust with their team. The salesperson who understands client needs at a deep level. These relationship capabilities don't get automated because they require genuine human connection, not just task execution. Ninth mindset shift. Think in decades, not years. AI development will continue for the rest of your career. The question isn't whether to adapt to AI once, but how to build a professional approach that can evolve continuously as AI capabilities change. This requires thinking about your career in longer time horizons, investing in capabilities that remain valuable across technological shifts. This argues against optimizing too heavily for current technology. The specific AI tools you use today will be different in 5 years, but the judgment, domain understanding, and adaptability you develop remain valuable across those shifts. 10th mindset shift. Reject both panic and complacency. Hinton's message isn't that everything is fine and nothing needs to change, but it's also not that human professional work is ending and we should give up. It's that thoughtful adaptation based on clear understanding of what AI can and cannot do creates paths forward for professionals willing to evolve. Panic leads to poor decisions, wasted energy on fears that won't materialize, and vulnerability to grifters selling false solutions. Complacency leads to being blindsided by changes that are genuinely happening. The appropriate response is engaged adaptation, paying attention to how things are changing, honestly assessing where you add value, and investing in capabilities that remain relevant. If this perspective helped you rethink AI, like the video and subscribe for more. This channel exists to provide thoughtful, grounded analysis of AI's actual implications for professionals without hype or doom. The professionals who thrive won't be those who resist AI or those who assume it solves everything. They'll be those who understand it clearly, use it effectively, and focus their own development on capabilities that remain distinctly and importantly human. They'll be those who treat Hinton's warnings seriously without treating them as predictions of inevitable obsolescence. Your value as a professional isn't under threat from AI development, but the specific forms that value takes are shifting. The adaptation required isn't learning new tools. It's developing deeper judgment, taking more responsibility, understanding your domain more thoroughly, and focusing on work where human capabilities like context awareness, ethical reasoning, and genuine understanding matter most. This is work you can do. It doesn't require predicting the future perfectly. It requires honest assessment of where you add value now, clear-eyed understanding of what AI handles well, and willingness to invest in capabilities that remain distinctly human even as AI capabilities expand. Geoffrey Hinton's actual message isn't about human obsolescence. It's about human adaptation. Not because we have to accept whatever technology companies build, but because thoughtful engagement with powerful technologies lets us shape how they're deployed and ensure they serve human values. That engagement requires understanding what these technologies actually are, what they can and cannot do, and what human capabilities remain essential regardless of how impressive AI systems become. The future isn't humans competing with AI at AI's strengths. It's humans focusing on human strengths and using AI as a tool to be more effective at work that requires judgment, understanding, accountability, and genuine reasoning. That's the future Hinton's work points toward, and it's one where thoughtful professionals have clear paths forward.